did you attend college? And so how'd that whole process go?
Yeah, so when I was like 14, I was getting into a lot of trouble in St. Louis. From like the ages of 11 to 14, I was getting in a lot of trouble. You could call me a juvenile delinquent. You know, my first time in juvenile hall, I was 11 years old, and I went like probably 3 or 4 times that year. And so when I was 14, my dad he decided to send me to a boarding school in England. And so
Okay.
they pulled me from ninth grade. I was probably in ninth grade for like 2 or 3 months. I got to a fight at school and I got suspended for like 4 days. So on my suspension, before my suspension was up, my pops was like, yeah, we're going to take you out the country. Took me to England. I was in a boarding school there for like 3 months. Ended up getting expelled out of that school. And then that was when my dad was like, okay, bump all that. We're going to send you to Africa. And so they sent me to a boarding school in Africa. I was out for like 5 years before I came back to go to college when I was 20. And then, you know, my last year of high school, it was actually the last semester. I didn't know. So I took my SATs out there and my dad started filling out college applications for me. So before I graduated high school, I got an acceptance letter to college here in the States. So I'm thinking, okay, I got accepted to college already. I'm not going to class no more. Like I'm already.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so I'm like, forget all them classes. I'm just chill in the dorms. And that's when I started reading books. So that was when I first read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I think is a book that everybody kind of got started on, you know. And I read like that whole series, The Cash Flow Quadrant, and just all those books that kind of focus around real estate and owning assets. So, you know, when I came back to the States at 20, my mind, I was just hardwired. I was like, yo, I got to buy property. How do I buy property? What does that look like? And so I came back at 20, started going to college. Wasn't really taking college that I really didn't do well throughout my entire college career. I did enough just to pass. And, you know, I was just trying to figure out how to make money, how to buy real estate. I was buying all those little nonsense programs to, you know, buy houses for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
You know, I was getting tricked, right? You know? So it took me like between 5 to 8 years before I really figured out anything that was substantial to get into real estate as far as what I wanted to get into. Because as far as my mom, she had bought single family houses in the hood. She had, you know, buy them for cheap, rent them out to like elderly people and stuff like that. But she never really did it on the level that I wanted to do, which was buy like multifamily property and apartment buildings and stuff like that. So there was only so much she could tell me, even though she really wanted me to get some game. It was just so much game she could tell me.
Yeah.
So it took me like probably almost 10 years trying to figure that out by myself, you know. And then I had moved to New Jersey. My dad had moved out there in the 90s when him and my parents had split. So I moved out there with him, transferred to a school out there, and that's when I really got into the real estate business, is when I was in New Jersey. And I started wholesaling, started really networking with investors, getting my name known. Did a couple community service projects where, you know, we were building houses for the homeless. That got me some media attention. And it really just gave me that platform to where I could step out and say, okay, I'm ready to start buying stuff, flipping stuff. And then, you know, I bought my first piece of property from the city of Newark for $1,000.
Nice.
Because they had a program to where they was like, if you're a real estate investor and you're going to redevelop the worst parts of our city and make these things beautiful, we'll basically give you the property, you know. So they gave it to me for $1,000, and I just began, like, you know, putting on my real estate developer hat.
Okay.
You know, that's really kind of where I kind of explore the other ones that I have with, you know, business development. Because business development, in a nutshell, it's you bringing together all the different pieces and aspects of a business to grow it and make it work. So you're not going to learn that in any better way than when you're trying to build a property on a piece of land where there's nothing. Because you got to get electricians together, contractors, you got to get permits, licenses, you got to get plumbers. There's so many people that you got to get together on one accord to get this thing achieved.
Mm-hmm.
You, by default, you learn how to develop a system or develop a business. And
That's interesting. So you're saying that working in real estate and building a property from scratch gives you the same skills that you can just apply to a different business as a business developer.
In any business, because you literally, like, I'm not a plumber, I'm not an electrician, I don't know how to do that. So I got to find somebody who does, I got to make sure that number one, he's qualified. I figure out how much money is he going to take to be able to do a good job for me so that I'm not looking crazy. And then I got to do the same thing with 7 other people. Mm-hmm. And you got to get your permits. You got to get your architectural plans approved by the zoning department. That could take months. You know, they don't know who the hell you are. So you got to make them feel comfortable with, you know, passing these things in a time that makes sense for your construction time or whatever. And so, like, you know, you're going to have to deal with that type of process in any business you're in, whether you're selling toilet paper, whether you're a barber, whether you're selling T-shirts or whatever. So I think that is what really gave me that springboard. And then I just started applying that to other businesses and telling other businesses, look, if you pay me, I'll help you develop what you got going on.
You know, that's interesting because I always tell people that working in real estate is almost like going to business school. I've never even thought about it that way because I always tell people, even on the other side of administration, say business administration, it's a little bit different than development. Real estate prepares you for that as well. You work with numbers sort of like on an accounting side in terms of dealing with people and paperwork, like all of those things that are like more administrative and not development. Real estate gives you that too. So real estate actually gives you the full gamut of business within one, like, you know, yeah. So that's amazing when you think about it that way.